What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of my podcast, Happy Days, with me, Callum Church. Now, today, I want to talk about some of the sources of negativity, because this is something I've been thinking about recently, about, where negativity comes from and how we can cut it out of our lives. I feel like I do a pretty good job of it, but I see other people allow negativity to get to them and it starts affecting them, and it brings their mood down. They feel like they're having a bad day, or maybe it manifests in even more negativity in the future. So I kind of want to talk, first of all, in this episode about what negativity actually is, because for me, the way that I sort of envision it, I think of it like an energy. I think a lot of people do see negativity or positivity as like an energy. So you find a positive energy and a negative energy, of which the positive energy is of a higher vibration and the negative energy is of a lower vibration. People talk about this a lot with stuff like the law of attraction and spirituality and all sorts of things. But for the most part, I think this is true. Because everything is vibrating. In every moment of our lives, we are vibrating as people. My desk right here is vibrating. My mic is vibrating, because of the actual, small particles that make it up. Or sorry, all the small, like elements and atoms that make it up. So everything's vibrating. Some things are vibrating higher than others, and what we want to do is vibrate the most as we can as people, and vibrate the least, because otherwise we'd be negative, right? So that might sound like a bunch of doo-doo or rubbish to you, but it's a good way to envision it, because it helps understand how negativity can affect us. You don't necessarily have to believe that there is such thing as positive and negative energy, but in order to be, happier and feel more positive as a person, it can be quite helpful to imagine it that way, where we have a certain level of positive energy and the negative energy can come and cancel that out almost, and take away some of that positivity. So everyone has to allow negativity into their lives, into them, in order for them to feel negative themselves. If the negativity can't get to you, of course it's not going to affect you, right? Just the same as, you can't charge your phone without plugging it in. You have to allow that electrical energy to get into your phone in order to affect it. In that case, it's positive because it's charging it up. So it's the same thing with negativity. If you plug yourself into negativity, if you allow yourself to be open to it and allow it in, it's going to affect you, and you're going to be charged, negatively charged. You're going to become a much more negative person. So that's what this episode's about. It's about how can we ensure that we stay unplugged from negativity. How can we stay unplugged from negativity and make sure that it doesn't affect us? Make sure that it doesn't charge us negatively. All right, we want to plug into the positivity so that the positivity can charge us up positively. And maybe I'll talk about that in a future episode. But for now, this is about the sources of negativity. So to start it off, I'm going to talk about the main one, really. It's the one where people come across the most. It's the one that affects people the most, certainly. And it's people. Negative people. Everyone knows someone who's negative, or at least someone that you don't particularly like, probably because they're negative. So how can we begin to cut these negative people out of our lives? How can we unplug from them? Well, setting boundaries is a good way to start this. Maybe if you have someone who is just getting in your life far too much, maybe you just need to set some boundaries, to set some space between you and that person. So say they want to meet up or something, decline the invitation. You don't have to meet up with these people, so you set some boundaries like that. Or it could be even in maybe like a work setting. Maybe you have a boss which you don't particularly like. Set some boundaries. Just say to your boss that, look, I don't want to be contacted after work hours or outside of work hours. I don't want you to talk about this certain thing or talk about that or judge me on this or that. There could be several ways that you can set boundaries, but it's always a good place to start off. If the boundaries don't work, then this is where the second, tactic you can take to unplug from this negativity. And this is just to straight up cut them off. Cut them out of your life. If you've got to think about these people and determine whether they're adding value or taking value away from your life. This is something which I do. There's been people in my life which have, in the past, which have, added nothing to my life. Added absolutely nothing positive, and, purely taken away positive through adding negativity to my life. Being negative people, saying negative things, coming at me with negativity. So I cut them out of my life, and it's easy to do. It might be, don't meet up with them, don't follow them on social media, whatever, or just keep a solid distance enough that those people don't come across you in your, day-to-day life, The third one, get away from these people. Distance yourself from these people. I know several people in my life, certainly not myself, I love my family, but there's a lot of people in my life that I know who have negative family members. And it's a tricky one, really, because it's your family, isn't it? It's difficult to cut your family out of your life. You can set boundaries, perhaps, with your family, but in some ways that can be quite difficult if you're living in the same household or something. So getting distance, physical distance away from these people can really serve you in terms of, raising your positive vibration, your positive vibe, feeling better. All the time in which you're spending physical time around negative people, their negativity is going to slowly creep into you. It's almost going to flow to you like energy. That's why it's such a good, analogy, I suppose, or way to vision it. Every time that you spend physical time next to negative people, their energy is going to flow, and it's going to gradually flow into you. And the more time you spend with them, the more that negative energy is going to flow into you. And in turn, that's gonna cancel out some of your positivity and make you feel more negative. Okay, so getting physical distance is a really good chance to A, stop that negativity from getting to you, and B, maybe just taking some time to recharge your batteries, try and bring yourself back up a bit, bring yourself to a more positive state, and get ready to go again. And be able to spend a little bit more time with them physically. Without it bringing you too far down, bringing you too far negatively. And the last one for people is to be mindful of them. Be mindful of the negativity that's going to get to you. That's why I think that picturing it as an energy, it can be really productive and good for people, is because it helps you to imagine it. It helps you to be more mindful of it, to, know that it's there. Because if you're spending time around these people and you're not aware of it, you're not mindful of it, then you're going to be spending more physical time with them, and that's going to affect you. If you're not aware of it, you won't be setting boundaries out there, and that's going to affect you. And also, just by being mindful of it, it helps you to just ignore it, really, just to, not let it get to you, right? Because if people are saying certain things and if they're saying certain things that are negative, you can sit there and say to yourself, hey, that's negative. That's not going to serve me in any way. I'm not going to give that any time in my life. I'm not going to give that any time in my head, in my mind, thinking about that. I'm not going to get caught up in all of this. It is what it is. They've said that. Let's forget about it, because it's not going to serve you by sitting there and dwelling on it or thinking about it. Another thing which can really affect us in a negative way is social media, and I suppose this is almost a bit of a branch off of the people sort of element I was talking about earlier. Social media, it's what does social media bring? It helps us connect us to other people, which can be hugely positive. It certainly has had a positive influence on me in my life. Connecting with other positive people online. Sharing positivity online. But likewise, when you're connecting with that many people, simply through your fingertips, it can put you in touch with negative people. It can put negative people in front of you, which might affect you. So this is something we really have to tackle. And the first way which I want to talk about in which we can tackle this is by spending less time online. Think of this almost like getting away from the people, which I spoke about earlier. Putting physical distance between you and those people. This is putting physical distance between you and the people who you're contacting on social media, the people who are put in front of you on social media. It gives you a chance to recharge your batteries, bring yourself back up to more positivity, and get ready to go again when you go back online. And those negative comments or negative posts or negative people in general might get to you. So spend less time online. Another thing you can do is limit what you see online. It's been incredible the difference which having a second Instagram account has had on me. Before, I just had a personal Instagram account. This was before I started the podcast. And I'd scroll through that. I'd look at other people. I'd compare myself to others. Not necessarily consciously, but I'd be comparing myself to others, seeing other people's, lives. And I've spoken about on this podcast about how social media only presents the top 5% of people's lives, or even 1% of people's lives when we're comparing ourselves to each other. It does us no good, and it's totally fake. But by setting up a new account on social media, it gave me a chance to only follow the stuff which I truly felt positively about on social media. Only follow stuff which I know is only going to bring me up. So on my like podcast page, I suppose you could say, on my work Instagram page, or whatever you want to call it, I only follow positive people or positive people who I'm connected with, positive people in my network, or positive people that I just enjoy their content. I enjoy what they have to say. That's all I follow on that page. And as a result of that, whenever I feel the craving to go scroll through social media for a bit, I'll scroll through the positive page, the page in which I follow positive people, and it'll make me feel good. And I've actually been able to spend less time on my personal page, in which it's not necessarily much positivity going on there. It's just people's lives and that sort of thing. And instead, I'm shifting my time more onto the positive stuff, the stuff I enjoy. So you can do that. You can set up another page, or you can just start unfollowing people. Unfollow people that don't add any value in your lives. Weigh up who you actually care about. I guarantee that there will be hundreds of people you follow on social media that you just do not give a crap about. There will be. There certainly is on my page. On my personal page, I follow hundreds of people, 300 people, I think it is. And ultimately, the number of people who I actually care about seeing their posts is probably about 20, maybe, 25, 30 at a push. Ultimately, that other 270 people that I follow had no value to my life. There's really not that much point in following them. So maybe I'll go ahead and unfollow them this evening. We'll see. But limiting what you see online, that can be another way to try and cut some negativity out of your life. When you do see negativity online, do not give it any thought. Do not allow yourself to be plugged into that negativity, because the longer that these negative stuff that we see, negative people or negative thoughts or negative stuff online, the more time we allow that to sit in our heads, sit in our brains, and while we're thinking about it, while we're getting annoyed at it and that sort of thing, the longer it spends there, the more time that negativity is going to allow the more time that it spends in your head, the more you allow it to affect you. The more you allow that negativity to get to you. So every time you see negativity on social media, scroll past it. Don't even give it a second thought. Don't even finish reading it. Don't even finish reading the caption or looking at the post on Instagram or finish watching the video. Just scroll straight past it. Don't allow it to take up any space in your head, because the space in your head is important. It's powerful. Your thoughts genuinely affect your reality. So if you're allowing this negativity to sit in your brain, you're allowing that negativity to get to you, and that's going to make you a more negative person. That's going to bring more negativity into your life and give you a much more negative perspective. Don't hesitate to just block people either. That's what it's there for. If someone is actually physically coming at you, or not physically, I suppose, but, sending you messages that are negative, coming at you, whether this be like cyberbullying or something, I don't know. It's not something I've experienced myself, cyberbullying or anything like that. But, if people are actually coming at you in that way, just block them. Don't hesitate to just block them. Because it's like, sure, you might sit there and think like, oh, I don't know if I want to block them because, that kind of shows that they've won. It really hasn't, because honestly, I promise you that the day after you block them, you're not going to even think about those people. Those people are never ever going to spend a second longer taking up time in your brain, taking up your thoughts, taking up, your mindset. They're not going to take up any more of that. So they're not going to affect your lives anymore. I guarantee that. So just do not hesitate to block these people. Something else we can do is just take a break. Take a detox. Spending less time online. Just delete the apps or something. Take a week to take a total social media detox. And honestly, the benefits are incredible. Sure, you might be a bit bored for the first couple days, but once you get onto that third day, you honestly will feel so much better, and you'll start taking up your time with more positive habits. You'll start taking up your time doing things like reading and exercising. And trust me, the boredom is good. The boredom is really good. Do you really think that our human brains were made to be so stimulated as they are in the modern world? Of course they're not. They're really not. Our brains were made to, help us, go through the African plains, as the ancient Homo sapiens, and hunt food and that sort of thing. Our brains were not made to sit there and stare at a screen for hours every day. Of course not. So by taking a detox and just deleting some of these apps and cutting yourself away from social media, it can honestly do you the world of good. Right, so the third thing which can affect us negatively might surprise you, and it's going to be food and drink, right? Food and drink. And as I said, this might surprise you at first, but once you start thinking about it, I guarantee that it will, become a bit more clearer, because you have to understand that food and drink, we are actually physically putting this stuff into our body. It's not as if we're allowing this stuff to sit in our brains, in thoughts, in something which is, not quite physical. It's in our head. It's a thought. Whereas food and drink is actually a physical thing which sits in your body. Do not think for a second that this stuff is not going to affect you. This stuff is the fuel for your life. The fuel for your life. So if you're putting crappy fuel inside of you, think about that's how it's going to affect you. If you fill your car up with petrol, it's going to run, right? But if you fill your car up with mud, it's not going to get very far, right? So every time that you fill yourself up with junk food, fill yourself up with junk drinks, think about how this is going to negatively affect you. There was actually a scientific study in which they analysed the vibration of certain foods. And this is a genuine thing, I promise you. And it actually turned out that stuff like junk food and coffee and alcohol, stuff like that, actually had a really low vibration. Whereas other foods like fruits and I think it was nuts and vegetables and these kinds of things, they had a really high vibration. And it's funny, if you think about that with an open mind, that might sound a little bit woo-woo at first, but if you think about that with an open mind, you know what, there's no wonder that we feel crap when we have junk food. Obviously it affects us because it's just crap for you in general, it's crap for you physically. But just because it's a physical thing, that doesn't mean that it's not gonna affect you negatively in a more in your mind, in your thoughts, in a less than physical capacity. And think about it. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you have a big sloppy and stodgy burger for breakfast, think about how that's going to make you feel for the rest of your day. I mean, you're going to sit there with a stodgy stomach, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot less energetic when I eat such high carby foods or stodgy foods like burgers and that. If I have a cooked breakfast, like I did today actually, it will make me feel a lot less energetic. Whereas if I have a raw breakfast, or I have, say, some dairy-free yogurt and fruit mixed in or something like that, I will feel so much more energetic for that day. If I eat raw up until lunchtime, I will feel so much more energetic for that day. And I genuinely do think that goes to show how negativity can get to us in the form of food. Sure, it might not take up your mind and your thoughts, but it certainly does take up your energy. So if you think about it, think about the negativity and positivity in an energy form, it shows again. And that's why it's so powerful to think about it. So, you know, try and cut these junk foods out of your life. Try and cut these junk drinks out of your life, and be mindful of what you're drinking. Think about what you're drinking and eating. Is this going to affect me, positively or negatively? When you have a cooked breakfast in the morning, just take a minute to think about, this is going to affect me for the rest of my day. I'm going to have to try and bring myself up positively to, counteract that. And like a lot of things, in moderation, it's fine. But obviously, if you're eating crap every day, it's not going to do you much good, is it? And that kind of brings us on quite nicely to alcohol. And I'm going to add drugs on there as well. Alcohol and drugs, obviously quite negative. I think that's quite obvious. And alcohol can be quite a hard one to balance, because if you're having alcohol in moderation, you're having a few drinks with other people, out in the sun or something with friends, enjoying your time, that can be so positive for you. Super, super positive. But if you start binge drinking, or if you overdo it and get yourself in a state, it's going to really affect you negatively. And it's really important not to be deceived by the delayed negativity that we get with alcohol and things like that. At the time, when you're loosened up a bit and having a bit of fun, it doesn't really affect you so much. It's not going to affect you so negatively. But once you start to overdo it, you will feel that negativity. And this will manifest the following day. When you're super hungover, you feel like crap. You sit there and you think, oh, why did I overdo it last night? Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep drinking so much? And that's what we've got to balance here. Of course, alcohol can actually be a force for good in some ways, but only in moderation, So you've got to be mindful about it. You've got to be mindful about the negativity that alcohol does possess, because it 100% does. Even though it doesn't manifest straight away, even though you don't feel that negativity straight away in the same way that other people might make you feel negative straight away. Even though it might not act the same way, you have to appreciate it, that it will make you feel negative in the future. It will make you feel negative going onto the following day when you're hungover and stuff like that. So just weigh it up a bit. Is overdoing it on that night before worth it when you feel like crap the day after? Because there's been a lot of times when I've drank alcohol and it's totally written off my following day, and it's like, I've just wasted a whole day of my life. I've got a finite life and I'm wasting days sitting in bed and watching Netflix and feeling sorry for myself because I overdid it the night before. And is it really worth it? I don't know. Drugs is similar to alcohol in the same way, in that it doesn't make you feel the negativity straight away. And look, I'm not a drug kind of person. I'm not into this sort of stuff. I'm not. Obviously, I don't take drugs, right? But I've seen it and how it affects other people. And in the moment, when people have maybe got a little bit of a habit with drugs or something like that, they do it often. They don't realise the effect it has on them in the moment. They really don't. But once they quit, and once they stop taking these drugs, they look back on themselves and they look at other people that might have a habit with drugs, and they think, why on earth did I do that? Why on earth? Because it really does affect you negatively. It really does. Like even smoking, something which a lot of people might consider quite like a weak drug, like a soft drug, as opposed to the hard drugs. That still seriously affects you. It makes you feel like crap. It makes you so lazy, and it really does affect your psyche and your mindset with things. And again, it just brings you down. It just kills your energy physically, your physical energy, and your mental energy. Your positive and negative energy. It absolutely kills it. So just take some time to maybe think about, is this affecting me? I mean, it is. It will be affecting you. And just think about how you might see the positive benefits once you start to cut these things out your life. I think with alcohol you can manage it in moderation. I think with drugs, from my experience looking at other people that I know, there's no moderation with these kinds of things. I don't think there is. So to cut it out your life, yes, be mindful of it, but just get rid of it. Just stop. Really, it's simple. Really, just quit it. Really. Another weird one which kind of flies under the radar a little bit is music. Music can really affect us in a negative way. And I'm not talking about all music. Music can totally make us feel positive. It certainly does make me feel positive with the stuff that I listen to. But having said that, because it can affect us so much positively, it can also affect us so much negatively. So, what kind of music are you being plugged into? Because obviously, 90% of music isn't negative, but you do get that 10%. A lot of the time, it tends to be rap, and trust me, I'm not generalizing that. I'm not saying that all rap is bad. I still listen to a lot of hip hop and rap and that sort of thing, and I love it. I do listen to it quite a lot. But having said that, there is a lot of music which can seriously have a negative effect on you. And it tends to be the music which has negative lyrics in it. Lyrics that talk about murder or drug abuse, that kinds of things. And it's like, if you're plugging yourself in to this music, almost physically because you've got your headphones in or something, if you're plugging yourself in to this kind of music, you're plugging yourself into those lyrics. And do not think for a second that those lyrics, when you're singing them out loud, do not think for a second that they are not affirmations. When you're singing about murdering people, whether you mean it or not, that's still an affirmation. Obviously it's not going to make you want to murder people. That would be ridiculous, but it's still going to bring you down negatively. And I think it's pretty clear that the people that wrote those lyrics are quite negative people. They are quite negative. I mean, if they feel the need to sing about that sort of stuff, in a negative way, it's quite clear that they're negative people. So you're plugging yourself into those kinds of people when you listen to that music. Again, it's about being mindful about it, thinking about what music am I listening to? How is it going to affect me? And what music can I listen to make me feel more positive? That's something I do. I only and exclusively listen to happy music that makes me feel good. And it's because it affects me. It does genuinely affect me. I don't know if I have a much higher sensitivity to this kinds of thing, but I'm certainly more mindful to these kinds of things than other people. And I think that is why I've cut it out. It's because I'm actively thinking about this sort of stuff. Now, the last thing which can affect our negativity and how negative we are and bring negativity into our lives is actually yourself. You might not realize this, but you yourself can be making you feel more negative. And this comes in different things. First of all, dwelling on the negative, sitting there on the negative. I said earlier that, you can't allow this negativity to take up a second of your time. Look, your lives are finite. You're going to die one day, trust me. So are you really going to waste this finite time that you have on this planet in negativity? I mean, really? You want to spend as much time as you can on a much more positive note, on a positive vibe, sitting in positivity, having fun, experiencing joy, feeling the great things in life. You don't want to be sitting there dwelling about, oh, so-and-so said this about me, or, oh, this happened, or this negative thing, happened in my life. You don't want to be thinking about these things. Do not take a second to allow yourself to sit in this negativity, because the more that you sit and dwell, the more you sit in that negativity, the more it's going to bring you down, the more it's going to affect you. So you really got to be mindful of all these other things that affect you, sure, but be mindful of yourself and how much you're allowing yourself to be plugged into this sort of stuff. Second of all, anxiety. Being anxious about things can bring negativity into your life. And trust me, in the past, I've been a super anxious person. I've been super anxious socially and things like that. And and anxious in all aspects of life, really, you know. And sure, like, I know, trust me, firsthand, I know how hard it can be to bring yourself out of an anxious state, out of an anxious mindset, and out of an anxious, way of living and thinking. It's so tough. Trust me, I'm not downplaying that, but every time that you sit in anxiety, you're sitting in negativity. You really are, because you're worrying about how things might go wrong. You're worrying and visualizing how these things might go wrong. And as I've said, the more that you allow this negativity to sit in your brains when you're visualizing these types of things and you're worrying about these types of things and thinking about it, the more that this negativity is going to seep into you and get to you and bring you down. So, do not underestimate the phrase, "it is what it is." It is what it is. It's something that many people say, and whenever these negative things come into your life, just try and think it is what it is. Ultimately, we can't control the external. We can only control the internal. So if we control what we can do on the internal and say to ourselves that, no, I'm not going to spend any time sitting in this negativity and allowing this negativity to get to my internal, to get from the external to your internal, i.e. your brain, your mind, your thoughts. If you say to yourself that you're not going to allow that stuff to happen, it's not going to get to you. It really won't. It really won't. Think about yourself as a bubble. Bring a positive bubble around you that is going to completely reflect and bend away all of the negativity that's coming at you from the external. You have the power and the control over your internal. That's the only thing you can control. So make sure that you prep yourself in the best way possible to totally reflect and rebound the external coming at you. Okay, so one of these ways one of the ways in which to do this is by adopting that "it is what it is" mindset, and just making sure that you don't sit in anxiety. Just understand that if you control your internal, the external isn't going to get to you, and it's not going to go wrong. Seneca the Younger, my favourite philosopher, he said that we suffer far more in our imagination than our actual experiences, and that's true. You suffer far more sitting in that anxious state, worrying about things in your head, than you actually do in the physical world. So keep that in mind. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about, which, we bring in which we bring negativity into our lives, is comparison. When we compare ourselves to others, comparison is the thief of joy. It really is. So, again, it's about what's taking up your internal, your mind, your thoughts, and what kind of energy are you allowing to get into your mind and into your thoughts? Is it, the kind of energy which is positive, in which, you're saying to yourself, hell yeah, I'm awesome just the way I am. I've got all my own unique differences, and I don't need to, conform to all the general and typical ideas about what beauty is, or ideas about what good is, or good looking is, or attractive is. I'm happy in myself. I'm happy the way I am, and I don't need to give a thought about that sort of stuff. Are you saying that? Are you saying that genuinely, or are you sitting there and sitting in a more negative energy in which you're comparing yourselves to others, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, that person has such a wonderful body and I don't? That's not going to do you any good. It's really not, because every time that you spend allowing these thoughts to get into you and into your internal, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your vibe, your vibration, your energy. It's going to bring your positive energy down to a negative energy. So it's difficult. Again, it is difficult. But we really need to stop comparing ourselves to others. We really need to stop allowing these negative thoughts to sit in your head, because it's not going to affect you in a positive way. That's why mindfulness is so important, because every time that you sit there and you feel yourself, thinking in a negative way or comparing yourself to others, that is an opportunity for you to say, hold on, no, this isn't going to serve me. This isn't going to make me feel any better. Quit it, man. Quit doing it, So I think that just about covers it. Those are some of the things which I thought were the more significant sources of negativity, the more common sources of negativity. Even some sources in there that you maybe didn't think about so much or didn't, mindfully, know about. So those are the sources of negativity, how to cut them out, and that is all that I have for today's episode. I do truly hope that you did enjoy it, as always. If you did, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because it really does help the show. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me some feedback. I want to connect with you guys. I want to talk to you guys. Drop me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @callum.g.church. It'll be so awesome to connect with you. Again, that's all that I have for today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. So there you go, that's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice, so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.